Minecraft Legends. Who asked for this? For those of you unaware, over the past few years, Minecraft developer Mojang has sought to expand on the Minecraft universe by making some spin-offs into some different genres. 2020 saw the release of Minecraft Dungeons, a franchise take on the dungeon-crawling Diablo-like action RPG formula that, in my opinion, while very basic, was still a pretty decent time. Then comes Minecraft Legends in 2023 with an attempt at another genre. Let's see, we've already got ARPG, Telltale-style narrative adventure games, that weird Pokemon Go-esque augmented reality, so the next logical step? A real-time strategy game. Yeah, I'm not joking. We have a Minecraft RTS game on our hands, which, the first time I heard about this, it made me immediately ask the question, who is this for? Really, Minecraft's core fanbase typically tend to be either younger people or the ones who grew up playing it, and RTS games' main audience is your dad and his friends who want to blow off steam after their 9 to 5. That's obviously a joke. There's clearly people that are fans of both the RTS genre and Minecraft, but is that group of people really that big enough that it called for a game like this? I'm not too sure. I've obviously made my opinions on Minecraft clear with my other videos, but when it comes to the RTS genre, I would say I'm no hardcore fan, but I've played my fair share of them. Obviously playing the big three with Age of Empires, StarCraft, and Warcraft, but also throwing some shoutouts to Pikmin, since that one might be one of the most unique takes on the RTS formula. I guess I should also mention that I dabbled into the real-time tactics zone a bit too, with the likes of Brutal Legend back in the day. Super underrated game, by the way. The point is, I have a good idea of what I'm looking for when it comes to these types of games. And you know, when I first heard about this game, I raised an eyebrow, but then the more I thought about the idea of having a Minecraft version of an RTS game, you know, there's something there. Both games rely on resource collecting and building. There are a ton of mobs that I thought could work as potential units. Plus, PvP is a big focus of these games, so maybe that could keep a dedicated player base. Maybe Mojang had something here. And then the game released, and I never heard anything about it. Yeah, I felt like this game really just came and went. I don't remember anybody saying anything good or bad about it. It just sort of came out and went completely under the radar. Even when I was doing my initial run of Minecraft videos 2 years ago, I had one person email me and offer to send me a copy of Minecraft Story Mode Season 2 so I could make a video on it, but there was not a single person, not a soul alive, that asked me to take a look at Minecraft Legends. Which, by the way, if you're the person that emailed me and offered to send me that game, big shout outs to you. I didn't end up taking him up on that offer, but that was still one of the coolest fucking things that I've ever seen during my time of making videos for YouTube. But getting back on topic, no one gave a shit about Minecraft Legends. Was I right about there being no one interested in this type of game? Was it really just that unremarkable? Was it the stupid fucking title that made it sound like a mobile game? Like a Minecraft version of Raid Shadow Legends? I had no idea until I decided to sit down and play it, and man, this is one of the most boring, basic, mediocre, uninteresting, and just not that fun to play games that I think I've ever experienced in my entire life. It had barely any of the things that I loved about Minecraft, and calling it baby's first Age of Empires would be an insult to that game's legacy. There were so many points in my playthrough where I was just bored out of my mind, and when I wasn't feeling like I was wasting my time, I was either struggling to accomplish the most simple of things, or I was steamrolling everything in my path with little to no difficulty. And it's weird too, because this game is like really polished, like everything at least works and it accomplishes all it sets out to do. It just doesn't really try to do anything interesting or innovative in the slightest. It really just made me feel absolutely nothing except for boredom. But hey, we're here to talk about it, so let's get into it. So maybe it'd be best if I talked about the things that I liked about Minecraft Legends first, since there are some, I repeat, some positives to this game. First and foremost, I think the presentation is spot on for what I want to see from the Minecraft universe. The cutscenes are amazingly animated, and when it comes to the cinematics with the piglins, I can't help but think about the Orc campaign in Warcraft 3. Seriously, these guys are more or less like a slightly comedic version of the Horde, and I think that's fucking awesome. Maybe a bit on the nose with their inspiration, but I like it nevertheless. Everything in-engine also looks pretty damn good, and I was surprised to see just how well this game actually ran. I was running a pretty solid 144 FPS, with some occasional drops to the 120s when things got a little crazy or I was warping to a new area. If I can say one thing about Minecraft Legends, it's at least the smoothest running RTS game that I've ever played. But maybe the biggest saving grace that this game has to offer is the ability to play the entire campaign cooperatively with up to 4 people. No matter how shit a game might be, playing it with others will always make things at least a little bit better, but that was not a luxury that I had for this playthrough. And I'm done being nice. Yep, I didn't get a chance to banter with somebody about how shit this game was. I just had to sit there and let it stew in my brain, and you fuckers are going to be the ones that have to hear me bitch for however long we have left in this video. So obviously you, yes you, the person watching this video, you have eyes, you have a mostly functioning brain. This game doesn't really look anything like Age of Empires, StarCraft, Warcraft 3, or really any RTS game you've ever played before, does it? Nope, Minecraft Legends has a unique take on the formula that is, It's different, I'll give it that. Here's how it works. You're essentially dropped into the overworld after 3 factions of the Piglins have invaded from the Nether, and it's your job to protect the towns, gather resources, upgrade your army, and drive the Piglins back where they came from a third-person perspective with a focus on having a smaller overall army. Alright, which thing to bitch about first? Let's go with the whole third-person thing. So most RTS games are typically in an isometric or top-down perspective since you're, trying to see as much of the board as possible to properly manage all of your units and your base. Minecraft Legends decides to have everything be a bit more of an intimate experience, I guess, by having everything in the third person and having us follow around a character. Which is something that has worked before with the likes of Pikmin or Brutal Legend, so I know it's something that can be done, but those games have a bit more going on with them to make that design choice actually feel like it was made to make the game better rather than just more accessible. Pikmin has all of these traps and dangers of the world that you have to look out for, like fire, water, electric traps, creatures that will eat your Pikmin, or nectar to have your Pikmin get stronger. It makes sense for you to be close up to get a good view of them so you can act accordingly. Minecraft Legends has things like this too, like things that you should watch out for, such as thorns or lava, and things that you should try to grab like buffs from the tall grass and mushrooms, but the lava is the only thing that you'll ever find in an actual area where you'll be doing combat, while everything else is just out in the overworld. And those buffs you get really only exist to help you move through the overworld faster, so they aren't really that important to the core gameplay loop. Brutal Legend has you in third person because you have a whole combat system around doing melee strikes, casting spells with your guitar, and interacting with certain units to use their special actions. Minecraft Legends will let you use a melee attack with your sword that does some okay damage and provides good knockback, but that is where it really begins and ends. You don't learn any new abilities, you don't have any interactions with any of your units, all you have is your sword swing, which, while useful, is very boring. So like both of those games, you'll be able to command your units to do a few things, mainly just focusing on a target or attacking everything in a general direction as they move. There's nothing really too advanced like unit grouping. In fact, your unit count is actually pretty small with how many you can summon or command in the overworld, but you can eventually upgrade it into something a little bit more passable. The act of grabbing all of your units is very similar to Pikmin actually, with you using the rally flag like a whistle in this game. As far as I know, there isn't really a rally 2 option that you can do on the fly for all of your units. The closest thing you get is by going to a spawner block and recalling them there. Not ideal, but at least it's something. So you have the most bare bones option for actually controlling your units. You basically don't ever need to worry about obstacles except for the occasional lava pools, which are easily avoidable, and you only have one melee attack that you can basically hold the button down and charge into hordes of enemies with minimal repercussions like it's a fucking Lord of the Rings movie. I get that this is supposed to be a simplified version of the RTS formula that was designed for newcomers, but I just can't help but feel a lot more could have been done here. The perspective change to me doesn't seem like it was made with the attempt of doing anything interesting with it. Rather, it was done because I think Mojang was worried about scaring new fans off by being overwhelmed with how intense an RTS game can get. There is so much always happening at all times that you have to be aware of and also on top of in this genre that I think by pulling the player into a closer view, they try to eliminate that, but they don't supplement it with anything else to keep things interesting. I think my point of them being worried about overwhelming players also comes into play when you realize that if something isn't in your immediate area, it more or less doesn't exist. Yeah, it's Schrodinger's Minecraft spinoff. There are things that happen in massive quotations, like the piglins will target a town or they'll add some sort of enhancements to a base that they have, but it's not like the piglins are actually doing these things. The game is more or less just saying, oh, the piglins added some new towers, or oh, the piglins destroyed the town because you didn't protect it, and boom, new towers and level villages just like that. You could be in the middle of a massive invasion on an enemy portal and then run to go grab some resources real quick. And when you return, a new defensive tower will pop up behind your army that hasn't moved or destroyed any new structures, by the way, and will leave you scratching your head as to how the hell it got there. The same thing happens for defending a village. I had one village that must have had like 3 dozen towers that were shooting arrows, several buildings healing all nearby structures, one that bolstered the defenses of everything around it, and a special tower that routinely stunned everything in the area. This village was armed to the fucking teeth and ready for an invasion. That night, there were 2 villages being raided. This one, and one that was far less defended. I started the night in the stronger village and then moved over to the second one after a while because I just saw how much this village was dominating the piglins. The weaker one had already been captured, so I freed it, which took, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes, and then went back to check on the first one. Not only had this village now fallen, but the fountain, which is essentially the thing that you need to make sure is defended, was the only thing that was damaged, as it had 0% durability while all the other towers and buildings were fine. Hell, within less than a minute of me spawning in, all the enemies were defeated without me or a single one of my units ever damaging any of the piglets, and the village was ours again. So how the fuck did they take it in the first place? I don't know. After that point, I stopped giving a fuck about defending the villages. These are an even bigger waste of time than defending the settlements from Fallout 4. This was clearly done to cut down unnecessary resources to help the game run overall smoother, like I said, but this ultimately just makes things feel like there's either nothing happening in areas that you should be concerned about, or you have to be locked into those locations to actually make any meaningful progress. It'd be like if in Age of Empires, your enemies just didn't move if they were still underneath the fog of war. It just fucking sucks. Hell, I would have just let every village burn to the ground if they didn't provide me with some decent fast travel spots, and also a chest that basically let me ignore the resource gathering portion of the game. Yeah, you know the central mechanic to basically every RTS game under the sun? Wouldn't it be more fun if you just enabled a cheat to essentially have unlimited resources at the push of a button? Well, grab the upgrade from the shop that opens all village chests at once, and watch all of your resources max out before any siege attempt you do. Not that the resource gathering isn't brain dead already. You are given a number of these boxes you can place down, and they will grab a targeted resource until that area is depleted, the resource limit is reached, or some asshole comes by and destroys your box. And if that happens, you can just immediately put down another one like nothing ever happened. Combined with the fact that any battle you have can just be paused while you go grab resources, and this is less of something that you need to strategically manage during all moments of play, and is instead a chore that you have to keep up with from time to time. In the early game, you'll kind of feel the sting of not having all the resources always available, so you'll have to scavenge for some, and these can be found randomly in the overworld depending on the biome that they correspond with. These biomes and the map at large are also all procedurally generated. Can't say that I'm really surprised with that, but it can cause some issues. Like, there are just points on the map that you have absolutely no business going to whatsoever depending on map layout. Also, many of the upgrades that you might want to find, like different mounts, exclusive towers, and better units, will be placed randomly, which can make things a little annoying to track down, as you can imagine. Once I found out about the first units that essentially act as tanks, I spent a solid hour just wandering around the map looking for them. And trust me, if you want to have any meaningful way to push and not have your units immediately just die, you need these guys. They have more health and damage, some can create shields, they can quickly level structures, one is a whole enemy spawner. These guys are fucking necessary. Though the game won't really tell you about their existence outside of this checklist here, which doesn't even explain what the firsts are, what they do, or where to find them. So I was under the impression that they were just a sort of an optional thing to collect. And I guess they technically are, but trust me, they're really not optional at all if you want to perform a successful siege, since the rest of your units kind of suck. But you slowly start to get more by playing the game or going to these settlements to liberate the mobs. I didn't get too much use out of the zombies, but having an army of skeleton archers clear the way for my creepers to instant nuke whatever structure I decided to say fuck you to that day was incredibly cathartic to me. You do have that sort of rock, paper, scissors relationship between units like you'd expect from Age of Empires or StarCraft, but obviously on a much smaller and simpler scale. Though if I'm being honest, outside of creepers absolutely decimating buildings, I never felt like the advantage of a particular unit really mattered all that much. My ranged units may do less damage to structures than my melee units, but they also don't path to stupid spots as often, and typically end up lasting longer anyways. Spawning these guys sucks too, by the way. It's not like you queue up how many you want and then let them do their thing. Instead, you have to go to a spawner and hold down the button until you have the required amount, because why would I want to do any multi-management in an RTS game, right? Oh, and also you can't upgrade them. Like at all. Fucking Age of War 2, that Flash game that I'm sure some of you probably played back in middle school, lets you upgrade your unit types. Why can't the studio behind the highest selling video game of all time figure this shit out? The main upgrades that you do get can honestly amount to dick for the most part anyways, and the way you go about getting them is a bit of a needlessly complicated thing too. You do this by building some structures that are at the central fountain in the overworld, which, okay, makes sense. I'm used to having to make buildings for upgrades, but you get a very limited number of spaces to use as opposed to most other RTS games. Basically just the adjacent spaces around these 4 towers. This is so limited, in fact, that you can't even end up purchasing one of every single upgrade. And the only thing I have to ask is, why have this restriction in the first place? Are they worried about players getting too overpowered in the PvE campaign? If they are, why not limit the more problematic buildings to a set amount so you can still have something somewhat interesting to play around with? These buildings are already locked behind collecting prismarine, which is one of the most scarce resources in the game that you will need to destroy piglin structures to get anyways, so why have another limitation here? And there are some upgrades definitely worth getting above others, like the ones that actually do provide minor buffs to structures, or the ones that let you summon more units, or god, this one that turns netherrack into buildable terrain. Buy this one ASAP. This one is basically a must-have, but it's also kind of disgusting how OP it is. See, the piglins will have their sort of territory that will be completely engulfed by the nether, and you cannot build any structures on top of it. Before I bought this upgrade, I noticed that after destroying some structures, I was given a little piece of buildable terrain inside of these bases that I could maybe set up some sort of defenses at. I was initially under the impression that this was going to be how the game worked. You slowly inch your way closer and closer by knocking out one structure at a time until you had the means of destroying the portal for good. I could see the appeal there, and that's how I played my first couple of siege attempts. That was until I got to my first medium-sized base, and I could not for the life of me make any progress whatsoever. There were just too many enemies that were way stronger than my army, and too many structures that were outranging mine and destroying whatever foothold I had. So I bought the netherrack upgrade and gave it a shot, and just look at the sheer stupidity of this. Yeah, I basically turned the entirety of the base into buildable terrain, set up like 40 to 50 towers that were being put up within mere seconds of one another, and a building out of reach from enemies that was healing everything up. The funniest thing was that the piglins just couldn't do anything to stop me. I was putting up structures literally faster than they could knock them down, and this was like the second siege that I needed to do out of the required 18, so I basically utilized the same strategy for the rest of the game. This honestly felt fucking dirty to do to them. Like, this is the equivalent of doing a castle push in Age of Empires 2, but you just have unlimited stone at your disposal, and the castles could be built by one villager in less than 3 seconds, and you have 5 of them being built all at the same time. Like, how the fuck do you respond to that? The answer is, you don't. And after I discovered that simple trick, collected all 4 of the first so I could have a decent front line, and utilized the redstone launchers for picking off the occasional structures that I wanted to immediately destroy, this game was basically over by that point, since I could solve every single encounter the same exact way. I finished the game in about 13 hours, which, yeah, that's not very long. I played on the second hardest difficulty too, because I know RTS games difficulty can already be sort of fucky, but after I got this plan in action, I never had any trouble with this game again whatsoever. I would occasionally overextend and die, but this really only puts you in timeout for 10 seconds before letting you pick back up with no real consequences. The only difficult part of this game was the beginning when I really didn't know what I was doing, but I also feel like the faction I chose to go for first did make things a little tougher. They have walls surrounding their portals, they have more tanky units, and I didn't know how this game worked yet, and I didn't have the upgrades to properly take them on. Which, fuck me, right? I was just following the checklist from top to bottom. I didn't know this would be the hardest one. The other 2 factions are much, much simpler. One faction literally just has their portal in the middle of an open field with minimal defenses, so I would just round up a bunch of creepers and rush in and kamikaze the portal. Like, I think I destroyed that whole faction in maybe an hour of playtime. It was really that easy. The other one was a little bit more annoying. They're essentially on these elevated platforms that you have to build stairs for, which isn't hard, mind you. The most challenging thing is to get your unit's AI to understand how to walk in a straight fucking line across a platform. Like, I know shitty pathing is just kind of a thing that you have to deal with when you play an RTS, but seeing these chucklefucks sit underneath the bridge rather than participating in the fight going on 30 feet above them after I gave them specific instructions on how to get there always brought my piss to a boil. Well, whatever. You beat the 3 factions, you kill the final boss, and what is there left to do in the campaign? Literally nothing. I mean, I guess you could go destroy minor encampments if you want. You could always get more prismarine by doing that so you can not upgrade the fountain anymore because of the limited space. You can get the other mounts that you don't really have any reason to use anymore. There's the PvP that I have literally been sitting in queue for as I've typed the last 12 paragraphs of this script. And those player numbers don't have me feeling too encouraged that I'll find anything sometime soon. You can play the campaign on a tougher difficulty, or you could play a better fucking game. Oh man, I really wanted to like this because I actually saw the potential after I thought about it for a while. There were even a couple points where I was starting to think maybe I was having some fun here, but fuck man, just no. I have played games that are, from a technical standpoint, way worse than this. I've also played games that I think made some design choices that really hold them back more than this game does. There are a lot of games out there that suck way more than this one, but Minecraft Legends really doesn't have the sauce, if you get what I'm saying. Like, outside of the fact that this is a Minecraft game, there is nothing else here that really grabs me or holds my interest. Like I said earlier, it runs great, the whole presentation in general is really damn good, and I think the concept for a Minecraft RTS is something that can really work. Just not here. The RTS elements are as bare bones as they can possibly be. The third-person perspective doesn't do anything interesting to justify it straying from genre traditions. There is little to no micromanaging, with some systems being trivialized to the point that they don't matter, and the game is so easy to break that you can basically find the winning formula within the first 2 hours and repeat it until you roll credits, with nothing being there to challenge you. The one thing that does keep RTSs alive even a decade after they come out is their PvP scene. But yeah, we're talking player numbers that would make Concord look like Fortnite in comparison here, so unless you know someone that is dying to play this, you'd be better off finding something else. And there are way better options if you're trying to get into the RTS genre. I would suggest one of the campaigns from Age of Empires 2, StarCraft 2, or Warcraft 3. I feel like they do a great job of introducing players to the basics of the genre, and in Warcraft and StarCraft's case, also have some pretty good stories to get into. Or give Pikmin a shot if the whole isometric perspective thing doesn't work for you. They're literally all phenomenal, some of Nintendo's finest if you ask me. I was really hoping that we'd have another case of something like Minecraft Dungeons here, where this would be a simple, albeit fun spin on the RTS formula in a Minecraft skin, but man, what a disappointment this was. Obviously, not recommending this one. This game is just straight up bad. If you liked it, let me know what you saw. I'm genuinely curious to see other people's opinions on this one, but for me, I don't think I'll ever return to this in favor of sticking to the games from the genre that I think are far superior. But that's all the time that we have today. Thank you guys for watching. So what was your favorite, or I guess in this case, least favorite memories of Minecraft Legends? Please be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And hey, if you enjoyed today's video, maybe consider giving it a like and subscribing. Thank you guys again. I'll catch you in the next video.